everyone to another episode of our Global Employability Expert Series. My name is Mirta Aguirre. I'm the head of employability at Virtual Internships. And today we have another great session for you. And let's explore what the topic is. Financial literacy, the superpower for your personal and professional growth. So for this very interesting session, let's reflect a little bit. So as you step into the exciting world of your career, equipped with knowledge and ambition, there's one skill that stands out as the ultimate game changer: financial literacy. In today's webinar, we'll learn what financial literacy implies and why it is important for your personal and professional development. We are waiting for our speaker as well, but I'm not sure he will be able to join. If Roberto can join, then we'll have his testimony on the topic. Then we'll also discover what financial literacy, what levels of financial literacy is going on in the world. We'll discover what Eduvate are doing. Eduvate is Jonathan's company. He will explain what they do, and we're going to have an interesting conversation on financial literacy and other employability topics. And this is brought by our very guest speaker, Jonathan. Jonathan is the CEO of Eduvate and has over 30 years of experience in employability and tech sectors across the UK, US, and Europe. His career spans higher education, nonprofit, and for-profit sectors, with recent focus on disruptive ventures in the preparation for work landscape. Specializing in accelerating financial literacy in digital realms, he champions a digital-first approach and fosters community connections. Jonathan's passion for customer experience and transformative wow moment drives his commitment to financial literacy. Recognized for his contributions with the VI Award in Remote Internship Management, Jonathan is a bold leader inspiring and energizing colleagues to reach new heights. Thank you, Jonathan, for being here with us and also for being a great host, company supervisor, right? Because you've hosted many VI interns.
Yeah. Most of them turn up on time. Maybe not Roberto, but we shall.
There's always a first time.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to a time when the world was in black and white. So all these old photographs of the 60s, with it, it's all in black and white. And imagine me as a little boy holding his mummy's hand and going into a bank. And I went into this bank, and a very nice person behind the desk taught me how to write a check. She showed me what a check was. She showed me how you sign your name. My mummy explained to me that I didn't have very much money, and so there wouldn't be a lot of money in it, but nonetheless, this is how you write a check. I walked out of the bank smiling, and that was the last piece of financial literacy education I ever had. Nothing else happened in school, in high school, in university, in the workplace. Nothing. And so when we started looking at the orientation of the company and what we should be doing for young adults, it was, once we'd thought about it, not a very difficult choice for us to move forward on this line. What do I mean by financial literacy? Well, I hate the word. I hate the word literacy. It's too posh, it's too all-consuming. If you want to learn who was the governor of the Bank of England in 1825, I'm not very interested. I went to the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford last week, and downstairs there's a big exhibition on the history of money, showing coins from different countries, from olden times, moving up. Nah, I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in, and what the company's concerned with, is the practical side, is the day-to-day side of the financial choices you have to make, and in a sense, seeing round the corner, seeing what's coming up next, making financial decisions about your life, having an idea, an inkling of what might be happening round the corner. So practical, day-to-day stuff about money, like going into the gym and doing a few exercises and trying to get yourself fit, money muscles. That's the sort of thing that we're talking about. So not the academic stuff, not the stuff that might theoretically one day in the future help you. It's about the here and now. It's about what is happening. And the subject matter that we're concerned with here is extraordinarily wide. We're talking about savings, whether you should save money. We're talking about how you buy a house and what sort of money you need to be able to get together to buy a house, and whether you should rent one might be better or buy one, or what happens when you get old. Not that someone like me would know anything about that, but what happens when you get old? Should you take a pension out? Should you be planning for a pension now? We know that companies who sell pensions say, yes, you should, but really, is that a wise decision? Should you be planning your life? By the time of 30, I want to have a house. By the time of 40, I want a big car. By the time I'm 50, I want to retire. You know, are these the sort of things you should be doing? Or should you be, taking life as it comes, accepting that it's not going to be a job for life, that it's a life full of jobs? What should we be doing? What are taxes? What are you taxed on? How much money does the government, does local government take from you? When, where, why? If you've got a bit of extra cash, should you be investing your money? Should you be putting your money somewhere else safely? Should you be taking risks? What else? Cryptocurrency. Is that what you should be doing? NFTs were a big thing a couple of years ago, maybe not so much now, but is all cryptocurrency in trouble? So we're talking about things like related to your financial well-being, about how you proceed as an individual throughout this particular phase that you're going through now and on into the future. What about people who are not in a very good financial state at all? Should we be working in the areas of financial inclusion? And is the problems with financial issues related to digital issues, not being able to get on and use smartphones, tablets, whatever, for one reason or another, is that depriving you? So these are the sort of issues that the world is facing, and we are trying to make a contribution into all that stuff, knowing that each one of you has a personal credo, a personal belief about what you should be doing or what you want to be doing, whether you're doing it or not. And so we're trying to tailor products and services into that particular area, not following the way it's been done before, because frankly, the way it's been done before is not up to scratch.
So, Jonathan, if I'm understanding correctly, when we talk about financial literacy, that means really understanding what to do with our money, if we have any, right? Or maybe also how to earn money and what to do with the money we earn and how to think smartly for the future, right? So, but how does this skill that we may call financial literacy, we can name differently, how does that relate to our career development, to our personal development? Why is that something we should definitely take into consideration when thinking what skills I should develop for my personal and professional path, right?
Let's take a changing world as a starting point. Let's take a rapidly changing world as a starting point. Let's look at perhaps the most fundamental issue, not everyone would agree, but perhaps the most fundamental issue facing the world just now, which is climate change. And you and I, and maybe even Ed, don't have the money to make massive changes to the way the world goes. Ed might be different, but you never know. Yet we all want to make our own changes. We all want to do our bit. We all want to save a bit of money, be more eco-friendly in our purchasing habits, choose sustainable routes, perhaps do this rather than that, travel on public transport rather than buy a car, whatever, buy more expensive stuff. But we need to know how that is going to affect our personal lives by making these social, vitally important choices, because the people who make stuff, goods and products that you buy are often seeing the way in which we purchase, and therefore they are not doing it the right way and putting prices up. There are lots of expensive stuff going around in the electric car world, for instance. It's very different. What financially ought I to be doing myself in order to make these choices? Because often the less carbon neutral products are cheaper than the ones where you're going to try and be doing the right thing. So financial literacy, the capacity to work these things out, is the important thing in your personal life. In your working life, the number of people, and we have done a lot of research around the world, the number of people who go into their first job, they know what the salary is, they think, they come out after the first month and they get a pay slip. The first thing that they notice on their pay slip is it's not as much as they thought they were going to get. The second thing they notice about the payslip is there's all sorts of lines on it, which shows various institutions and organizations taking money from you, and you don't know what they mean. You don't know what that taxation issue is, or that pension contribution is, or that whatever it is, and they're stuck. They don't know what to do. And one of the problems in contemporary Britain, and I guess in other countries too, is there's no one to ask. You haven't been taught on the way through, and there's no one to ask now. Excuse me, what does that line mean? You don't want to go to HR. You look a fool. It's as if no one in the world has ever confronted this, but you don't want to be the one that goes to HR. And so you're left trying to puzzle it out and sort it out. And what employers are finding is that a lot of people are worrying about this in the workforce, in the talent pool. And that is costing employers money, because these people are going around worrying about whether they should be doing this, that, or whatever. And so it is, I'm not going to take it into the biggest levels at the moment, but it's a personal problem when you start entering the workforce, and it's a problem for the employers themselves.
And I was thinking also, how does it play when we are considering, well, the first job or a second job, right? But they propose us a monthly salary, right? We need to be careful also in understanding how much we will eventually receive at the end of the month, right? To not to have these kind of surprises if we're not sure about, how you said, the taxes in each country or any other things that are going to be deducted from our salary.
All of that's correct. And it becomes a puzzle, and it starts costing the people money that don't want to be losing it. So what's happened is that from the time then when everything was in black and white to now, when lots and lots of financial apps are available on your phone is that people move on to these apps and do all sorts of really clever stuff without understanding the fundamentals of what's going on. So there's a lot of scams that are successful. There's a lot of mistakes that are being made. And there's a lot of competition between the banks for customers who are just the age group we're talking with now, just that age group. And they're competing for these people. If you take some of the traditional banks, in the UK, we call them building societies, well, credit unions, all sorts of alternative ways, traditional banks, they are zooming online. They've been stuck in branches, they've been stuck in bricks and mortar, they're zooming online, they're desperate to get online. Why? Because they want to be hip and cool? No, because the young adults that we're talking with today have gone on to the apps. They've left them behind. And so when they look at their demographics, they're fine from about 40 to 90, but the younger people are not doing it. They're going on to the fintech apps. And so there is a battleground out there for colleagues, your money, your business. That is what they're looking for. And it would be so much better if young adults knew what they were doing and knew the various offers and difficulties that might prevail if they don't make the right decisions.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, right, looking at why this, oh, okay, we have Roberto there, I think, right?
Yes.
Ah, that's a nice
a very good looking chap, so it can't be me.
Hi, Roberto, how are you?
Hello, sorry, I'm late. I was dealing with Wi-Fi issues and I had to run to another part of campus to connect to the Wi-Fi. Yes.
Amazing, thanks
sorry.
for being here. So this is Roberto, everyone. He's also part of our talk, and we were just discussing with Jonathan a little bit about, well, financial literacy, what this is, why it is important for our personal and professional life, right? And we were, talking a little bit about these topics. Roberta, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your experience working with Jonathan, what you do, so we get to know you a little bit more? And first of all, you've been also a VI intern, so you can relate, the audience can relate to you because you know a little bit what we do, right?
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for inviting me. My name is Roberto DuCoin. I'm an international student. I'm currently majoring in the United States, but I'm originally from Mexico City, and I came to the US primarily because I'm a college athlete in here, so I'm a tennis player as well as combining with my studies. And how I met Jonathan to start with is through virtual internships. I was seeking for a virtual internship that could better enhance my skills and, you know, develop my background and especially my CV, but more importantly than anything, to learn more and expand my horizons and get out of my comfort zone. Because normally I think many students, what they seek for in an internship is mainly, you know, paid internships. But I think even though there are many unpaid internships, they're greatly underrated. And in general, I would say that with this internship, it was really an opportunity for me to grow and, like I said, expand my horizons a little bit more. I feel that in the landscape of financial literacy, it's also one of the most underrated educations in the world. I feel like, especially since it is not very well taught in high school and in schools in general, that's why it's so underrated, because it's really when you're out of high school and out of college that you really start noticing how important it is. So that's why I always liked Jonathan's and Eduvate's project. And overall in this internship, what I learned is different surveys survey methodologies, how to make a thorough market research, how to, get out of my comfort zone and being able to contact many people that I don't know from other countries, from other cultures, and really, get the skills that I know outside college are going to be really, really essential. So to do it now, it's like getting one step ahead of the game. It's like a chess game. It's like, anticipating what will come after and doing it now rather than thinking, oh, I'll always have time later. So it's better to, take the opportunity now instead of thinking later.
Yeah, I'm interested to know, you said you don't realize how much financial literacy it is important until you leave school, college, right? What's been your experience? What have you found out saying, I should better know more about this and that? How was it for you that made you realize maybe this is something I'd like to know more about?
So the first thing in financial literacy that I started noticing I needed to learn more, and especially now as a college student, for example, everything that has to do with credit scores and credit cards, but also learning about, taxes. I just did my tax returns 1 week ago, and without that knowledge, I would have been totally unable. And for example, something like those tax returns, they don't teach you that in school. They don't teach you that in college. You need to seek other opportunities to learn it from. And exactly when you're trying to look for these sources of education is when you realize that there is a great lack of them. So I will start with those two, and in general, just how to build your wealth. How to retain it, how to grow it, because that anything can happen, and you cannot fully rely on your job, because if you lose it from one day to the other, you have your wealth there to depend on. So it's better to learn how to grow it. So definitely in those 3 key areas.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting because for me, I'm also not very knowledgeable in financial matters, and I start to realize as time goes by, I'm a bit older than you, Roberto. I know I look very young, but I'm a little bit older. I'm a little bit younger than you, Jonathan. I need to be fair.
Thank you.
I always say to myself, I need to learn more about this, right? Because every year that passes by, I'm like, it's a full year that I could have invested some money, gained some interest. We have this compound interest rate that we leave savings, and maybe in 10 or 20 years, I can have some money. But this kind of thinking, I don't think it comes so natural, right? To start thinking, or maybe, oh, it's too late, or maybe I'm too young. What do you think, Jonathan, Roberto, what is your thoughts on how we can create this financial literacy mindset and tools? How can we develop this skill?
Yeah, I'll have a go at that first, and Roberto can comment. Firstly, to say that Roberto's gone on from working as an excellent intern to continuing working with us since then, obviously as a side hustle, but it's a tremendous thing. And I want to credit him for being one of the better, maybe not the best intern. Yeah. One of the best interns we've had. In terms of a mindset, you see, the banks, the insurance companies, and so on, hand out leaflets in branches. And when you stop going to the branch, they hand out leaflets over the internet. That's their mindset. They won't teach you in a way, this is their latest product, this is how you get your loan or whatever it is. And they are not educators, and they are, generally speaking, not young, and they don't understand. And so the approach is not osmosis, not just sort of you learn it somewhere or another, because the truth of the matter is that young adults with wealthier parents are more likely to pick up stuff around the house when you're wandering around than other people, than most of the world. So we need to find a way of getting over these things, which is not finger wagging, top down transmission form of education, but is actually stuff that you do. by working through use case scenarios, either as an individual or in groups. And the means that we've chosen to do that is online gamification, online games, a particular format that we've devised where every topic bespoke by culture, by level, can be created free to user by these very institutions that we're talking about. They will pay for these things, but they will also provide the expert knowledge, which we will are turning into the way in which you can learn not everything about everything, but develop these muscles so that when a new challenge comes along, you've developed a mindset, your word, in order to tackle what's coming up next or what might be just around the corner.
And to add to what Jonathan said, I would say that one of the great challenges is, for example, I come from Mexico, which is a third world country, and I was fortunate enough to, to develop myself in Mexico City in a well-developed area. But like Jonathan said, many of us, we rely on our parents to teach us these many things. So I start to think about the other 30 states in my country, and especially in not so developed areas, what opportunities do they have if there's not really an awareness and a formal education in this? So that just really represents, the global scale of this, because it's not only Mexico, it's also, I would say, every other country in the world. So that's why, like always Jonathan says, there's an opportunity to really grow this at scale, because over the past many years, there's not really still a formal education on this. So I think it's a really ambitious challenge to solve, but one that is definitely possible with the right formalization and standardization of this education. So that just really says how important and how underrated it is. It is everywhere you look at this. It's really, really important, and our whole world is just so dependent on, on financial services. I don't know anyone without a bank account, but does that person really know what the bank is all about? So that's where we see this.
Yeah, definitely is. And Roberto, I'm from Argentina, so I definitely understand your Latin struggles, third world country struggles. And for people like us who come from different countries where not necessarily everything is so developed, and we have, well, in my beautiful country, we have, I already lost the account, but we have more than, I think it's 300% of inflation a year now. So you can imagine how you plan a life. Last year was 100, but our economic situation has been deteriorating really fast. And now we're like 30% of inflation every month. Can you imagine that? How can you plan your life with such a context, right? And for me, being especially Argentinian, it is a challenge, right? And I need to understand how these things work. I need to work around some country restrictions. So for me, the big game changer since I've been working for BI was learning how to use all these bank options that are in the cloud, right? In the beautiful world of the internet. And see all the options, right? Understand, is it a good move for me to have some crypto? Is it a good move for me to open a bank account in another country? What things I need to have in mind? And I wish I had this training earlier on, right? And I'm wondering, like, Roberto, if you have to share some concrete tips, how could I do to keep on learning more? What have you done? Is it like web pages, speaking with people who have a more long trajectory? What could you recommend?
So the first thing that I will mention to answer that question is first seeking opportunities to learn more. And one of the best places for me has been seeking internships. especially like the one I got through virtual internships. I'm still in my junior year of college, and I've had more than 10 internship experiences, and not necessarily in one department. So I've been in marketing, in events, in education through financial literacy, in sales, in banking. So just being eager to learn more through opportunities that show up to you. If there's an email that you receive about an opportunity, just take it. So just having that attitude of I want to learn more, regardless of what department it is, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter into what job you land, you can bring a unique perspective that maybe some of the other workers don't have. So that's one. Two, with that same attitude of wanting to learn more, especially reading a lot of books. There are millions of books in the world. There has to be at least one subject that interests you. So just having that attitude to also learn from there. And, nowadays everything is so based on screens and electronics, sometimes we have to go back to basics. So just go to a library and pick up one book. There's millions there. Pick up one of a subject that interests you and say, okay, I'm gonna try to master this subject now. And thirdly, through a lot of opportunities that you also receive, like I mentioned, if you receive an email about an opportunity, it's also if you find an interesting website about any other topic, even if it takes 5 minutes of your time, there's always something, some website, some YouTube video, something. There's always something new to learn out there. But the most important things of these three things I mentioned is first, having that attitude of I want to learn more, because one of the people I admire the most is, for example, Elon Musk. And sometimes many people say, oh no, he just got lucky or whatever. But what we don't realize is that, by the age of 10, he was so bored because he had already read many books that he read the whole encyclopedia. So now if we see Elon Musk now, that has read over hundreds of books, he can see the world in 500 different perspectives. If you read 30 books, you will see it in 30 different ways. But if you haven't read any, you will only see it in the one way you have been learning. So definitely it starts with the attitude.
I love that piece of advice coming from a young person. The piece of advice: read books, read magazines, because we've come to be in this very technological world. I was just watching a video precisely on how in Sweden they are going back to actually having books. I love your background. That's a real library, right, Roberto? You're in, so you're preaching with example. I really like it. And so they were showing how 10-year-old kids, for the first time in their lives, they had a book in their hands, right? And this was like, wow, we've been used to using computers and everything so technological, but like books are a good thing, right? So the fact that you recommend to read books and magazines, that's very encouraging, because definitely that's another super skill we need to have, which is like being able to navigate all sorts of texts and supports. And so I'm sharing with everyone here in the chat a really interesting article on how to learn more about financial literacy, and it starts by saying read books. So that's a good thing. And also I was interested, as I was listening to you, you mentioned going a little bit off topic and going into the topic of how a virtual internship or internshiping in itself has helped you in your current path. So what have you discovered that, what value you see in participating in an internship? You mentioned a few, right? I'd like to understand more about your perspective of what you've learned from these different internships, how you see that your choices, or perhaps the way you see your career has been affected in a good way by doing the internship with Jonathan, or other internships in general.
Well, one of the most important things I learned through internships is number one, you also get a great mentor out of it. You know, I look at Jonathan, and you know, he's all the way in the UK. I haven't met him in person yet, and he's older than me, so that there's so many things to learn from him, which I have because I've known him for a year and a half now. And sometimes when we're involved in meetings with other people that both of us also don't know, that's also an opportunity for me to learn about how he handles those situations with people from other countries he doesn't know. So without doing that, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So now if I want to, you know, have a meeting with someone in China who I don't know of, now I know how to better approach the situation rather than before. So number one, out of those internships, you also get a great mentor. Number two, they put you in real life work situations. You know, if it's developing a presentation or developing a survey or a market research, those are things that it's not the same reading how to do them, but it's another thing to actually learning how to do it in the process. But also that comes with, I feel like in this opportunity, you also have to fail. You know, I remember when I was doing my first reports for Jonathan, he always came back with feedback. So it takes courage, you know, to know that you're going to send something that is probably not at its best quality, and you're going to receive feedback from it. But that's the same attitude I talked about. That's one thing to learn, and knowing that no matter how great you think your work is, someone else is always going to think differently from that. And that means that whoever you're going to turn it in, you need different feedback. So just being open to feedback is also a great thing. And also the third thing I will mention, well, there's always stress in work situations, but you know, stress is something that we've always dealt with. So if you develop, you know, a rhythm on how to deal with stress and how to learn from it, and also the pressure from work, that gives you, that definitely shapes your way of approaching work. It also gives you great leadership, because leadership, I think, starts with wanting to do the things that others don't, so that you can later teach those things to those people that didn't want to learn first. So you'll definitely become a leader out of this opportunity.
I would stress too that mentorship is a two-way street. I mean, Roberto mentors me as well, because I don't understand generationally everything that is going on in that generation. So it becomes mutually beneficial. Take tomorrow as an example. Tomorrow, Roberto and I will be talking with a senior individual in a bank in Colombia. And we will be looking to him to see whether he is going to help us instigate greater levels of financial literacy in that very large country. And in order to do that, Roberto and I have to work in tandem, work together. Neither of us have met him. He was introduced to us by someone else whom we also haven't met. And so we're moving into that virtual world, which is why financial literacy is underpinned by a willingness, in, as Roberto has described, in a sense to exploit himself, to take on board issues where he knows he might fail, he might succeed, but he knows that at the end of the day, the worst that can happen is that he will have gained invaluable experience. And that is the importance of this session and the work that we've done and are ongoing with Roberto.
I'm listening very interesting things. First of all, I'm listening the importance of taking the initiative, right? I will expand a little bit on this. Then the importance of mentorship, right? And also the valuable learning we can have, also considering different generations, right? Because as I mentioned, I'm older than Roberto. Jonathan, of course, you're older than us. But Roberto is also younger than me, so even me, there are things that I may not know from Roberto, because this what happens nowadays is that everything changes so much. I teach at university as well. My students are your age, Roberto, and sometimes my comments and jokes are like, they look at me like, ah, she's old, and I'm like, I'm not old. I'm very old. I'm very young. I'm a millennial, right? Yeah, millennials were not so much young anymore. And what I mean is like we all have different ways of viewing the world, and I guess that those here, I cannot see you, so I don't know how old you are, but I would guess that most of you are Roberto's age, so Generation Z maybe. And I guess that having the gymnastics of understanding that we are watching the world from our own very personal perspective and also generation perspective, right? And things that for us may be super obvious are not so obvious for other generations, or things that, like I mentioned, for me, like having a physical notebook is like essential. Other people would say like, that's so old. And those kind of things that may create like invisible frictions in the workplace, because we don't know how to approach someone from, I don't know, maybe we think, oh, he knows everything because they are older than us, or maybe we may think, oh, they don't know anything because they're younger than us. I think that's a very interesting and nice perspective to reframe, right? How we can always be learning independently on our role, our age, our the factual level in our company, right? We may be interns, but as you mentioned, Roberto, we can also take leadership initiatives, right? And say, I want to propose this. I want to speak to my supervisor and say, hey, I think this could be a good idea. So I'm going there to point one of the importance of taking the initiative. And as Jonathan, you mentioned, like worst case scenario, well, it didn't work, then we can have the opportunity to expand. Roberto, in your experience as an intern, what could be some kind of tips or things that you could have liked to know or tell yourself as recommendations, or when we face this virtual internship setting, what are some recommendations you can do to other colleagues, also young people like you? What what mindset, what are your things that you said, I think these are some things that we should take in consideration when interning, so to maximize our experience?
Start with the right attitude. I would say that for everyone that attended, that just by being here, you're already showing that initiative, that attitude of wanting to learn more. You know, the world is so big. There are so many things in every aspect of the world. So just, you know, waking up every day and wanting to learn something new, rather than just live like any other day and just look at your phone and look at Instagram again, just continue like a robot every day. I think you will be wasting the world's potential right there if you don't wake up every day and say, okay, what is in it here to learn more? And also expanding, wanting to expand your horizons. You know, for example, I'm from Mexico City. I moved here to the U.S. and, you know, my next country destination won't be or the U.S. or Mexico, because I want to continue, you know, learning more. So what I want to say with that is, with these internships is, you know, having that attitude of wanting to learn more, but not only, you know, getting landed into the job. Once you're there, also making your best effort possible, because if you want that attitude, you also have to prove it to yourself. If not, the only person that you're failing is not your supervisor who you're not turning your work to, is yourself, because you told yourself you wanted to learn something new. You told yourself you wanted to work in a new internship. You told yourself you wanted to try something new. But at the end of the day, if you don't finish that, the one that you're failing to is yourself. And I think that that has repercussions towards the end. And also, if you already tried to take on these opportunities and already failed, or already noticed that you really didn't like it, or there's always a second time to do things. So just try it again, and don't look at your previous experience. But overall, if you know, if in your goals you want to that others are not achieving, well, you have to start looking at what these other people are doing so that you're a doer and not just talking about these ideas. It's actually waking up tomorrow, doing it. If for everyone that is here, if there's already an internship you have in mind, after you finish this meeting, actually go and apply. You'll be proving to yourself that you actually want to do it.
Excellent. And Jonathan, I'd like your perspective as a supervisor and mentor.
I think the divide between your last two contributions of it is very interesting. Roberto's talking about universal truths. These are things which apply to all of us that are on this call and most others, not everyone perhaps, but most others. The truth that Roberto is saying, the truths that about carpe diem, about seizing the day, about taking your opportunities as they come. And then there was your contribution beforehand, which is the cultural sensitivities, acknowledging that what is happening in Latin America is not what's happening in Australia, is not what's happening in the Emirates or Saudi. These are or not what's happening in India, or not what. These are different things. So there's the universal truth and there's the cultural differences and sensitivities. And when you're tackling financial literacy, what I've been trying to say is that financial illiteracy is virtually universal on Roberto's side of things. But if we're going to solve it, then it has to be culturally sensitive to the particular locales in different parts of the world, which is what we've tried to do with our gamification.
And so I have one question from the audience, and the question goes for both of you. Why are you working with this topic? What made you decide that financial literacy was that way to go, the way to go?
Roberto, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, I can start. So for me, I think there's a moment in life when you realize that sometimes it's not everything about us, but also about giving to others. And I feel like through that there's also opportunities in which you realize you can also contribute to others. And that's one of the great things I think there is in leadership. So believing in a project like this, that is financial literacy, it's not like any other topic. It's not marketing. It's not like events. It's not, banking. It's actually going and solving a really harsh problem around all the world, even if it's a first world country like Switzerland or wherever it is. So the main reason is because one, I'm very passionate about helping others and, motivating others. But through financial literacy, I think that's a really practical way of actually, making a difference in people's lives. And if I can, at the same time combine it through work, and if at some point I can, also monetize what I like, which is, helping others and serving others through an initiative like this that is so global, that's the main reason why I believe in financial literacy education, because honestly, I don't see it. And I lived it as a high school student at some point, that I just graduated and found out that I should have learned about this so many things. But then I look at all the other students that I graduated with, and they're probably thinking the same thing. So I actually wanting to make that change and thinking that it's not too big to make a change. That's what, motivates me to getting in this field.
Amazing.
Mine is a similar perspective coming from the corporate viewpoint, which is coming out of the pandemic, and you look around and you see the problems and the issues, and then, well, what can we do to as a company to help solve things. I can't do the climate thing. I can't do that. That's not where my strengths lie. Where do my strengths lie? And that's why we've ended up with trying to solve the problems of financial literacy across the globe. And that's where we are.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jonathan and Roberto. I'm sharing your LinkedIn profile so our students can reach out to you and ask anything else if they want to know more about it. And for me, it's been a great pleasure listening to you both. I really, my biggest takeaway is like the importance of learning, right? To keep on always being curious and creating a toolbox for us that is both beneficial for our personal life and our professional life. Financial literacy seems like a really perfect tool for that toolbox, right? To really say this is a skill that is going to help me throughout my life. And as I imagine most of our audience are still very young or have, well, you're starting both. Maybe some not like me, not so young, but yeah, we're always young. We can always keep on learning. So I guess my main takeaway is the value of keep on learning, and especially this very interesting skill. So anything else you'd like to share before I say goodbye and thank you once again?
Anyone who wants to know more, I've got a flyer which encapsulates everything. So please, I'll send it to Mirta and you can distribute it as you see fit. But It's been lovely talking. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Sorry, I got late to the Wi-Fi issues, but I'm happy I was able to speak, and hopefully everything I said, helps someone in this room. So thank you.
Amazing. So remember, everyone, to connect with our speakers and always increase your LinkedIn network. Don't forget to send a lovely message saying, hey, Jonathan, I participated at the webinar. You were a speaker. I really liked what you said. Thanks for accepting me into your network. Remember, it's a good practice to always send a message when we're connecting with someone on LinkedIn. So thank you everyone very much, Roberto and Jonathan. Thank you everyone for being here today. I wish you a very lovely day, evening, wherever you are, and see you next time. Bye.